Hey, today we're diving into what I like to call killer chic. You know what I'm talking about? It's when the media turns assassins, bombers, and serial killers into cultural icons. If they have a chiseled jawline or a sultry stare, suddenly they're on the cover of a Rolling Stone. Meanwhile, the rest of us are here wondering if we stumbled into some dystopian Hunger Games reboot where the villains get sponsorship deals. Take Ted Bundy, for example. Guy who was so evil, he should have had "Do Not Trust" tattooed on his forehead at birth. But somehow, he got a Netflix movie starring Zac Efron. Zac Efron. Then, there's the Boston Marathon bomber, gracing the cover of Rolling Stone like he just dropped the hottest indie album of the year. Really? What's next? GQ's 10 grooming tips to look your best in a mugshot. Now we got this United Healthcare CEO assassin. The guy kills a health insurance executive, and instead of outrage, we got think pieces. New York Times asks, why did some people celebrate? NPR goes with, Americans vent their feelings about health insurance. You know, as if this guy was some sort of social justice warrior with a grudge against copays. Here's the paradox of Killer Chic. By putting these people in the spotlight, the media ensures there will be more of them. It's like streakers at a football game. Remember the 70s? Networks figured this out years ago. Don't give them airtime. Show the streaker, and every drunk college kid in a stadium is stripping down for their 15 minutes of fame. The same logic applies here. Cover the assassin like he's a misunderstood anti-hero. Guess what? You've just booked the next psycho for a primetime interview. Psychologists call this the copycat effect. But the media, they call it ratings. And the worse the crime, the higher the ratings. It's capitalism at its most grotesque. Murder as entertainment. Let's be clear. There's a difference between reporting the news and romanticizing a killer. The former informs us. The latter infects us. And this infection spreads. Turns society into a place where laws are meaningless, violence is glamorized, and everyone thinks they're the star of their own tragic Netflix series. So here's my advice to the media. Stop casting criminals like they're in a CW drama. If you want to report on killers, go ahead, but treat them like the scum they are. No glitzy headlines, no artistic photo spreads. For God's sake, no Zac Efron. My name's Tom Coffey. This is the Coffey and Nuance Show. Most ignored, censored commentary news show live right now. Flame on. Well, thanks for joining today. Who knows? Maybe it's working. Maybe it's not. Today is December 11th. I've had a lot of trouble streaming, and so today I'm streaming on a new machine. So hopefully it will work. But I guess I'll have to go check it afterwards and see if you could actually hear me. Who knows? But anyway, I'm Tom Coffey. We're at Coffey and Nuance on all the sites. We're streaming live right now on Rumble, X, and on YouTube to a handful of people. So cheers to you for joining today. But we're talking about this idea of killer chic and the spotlight effect. So what I see is we see a lot of high-profile crimes, and the media stage the killer and turn him into a cultural phenomenon. It's just glamorization of the criminal, and we've seen this so much with this healthcare assassin over the last couple of days. Now, what's more alarming with this is the spotlight paradox, if you will. So by drawing attention to these figures, the media perhaps inadvertently, incentivizes copycat behavior. So it just makes the system worse. So here's a couple of examples. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. What's up? Here's a couple examples of Killer Chic, and I mentioned them in my little monologue. Killer Chic occurs when the media shifts their focus from the brutality of the crime to the persona of the criminal. So it's not about reporting facts, it's creating this nice narrative, one that often humanizes the perpetrator. So here's some examples, right? We got Ted Bundy, serial killer. He became a media darling due to his charm and handsome appearance. See, it's always important to be handsome. I guess that's why I couldn't be a. I would be a. I would not get the coverage that that this guy's getting. Right, Ted Bundy. They reinforced this narrative. Netflix produced a movie starring Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. I mean, you can't get more glamorous than that. Boston Marathon bombers. The media often, when they were covering this event, talked about their striking looks and their boyish charm of the brothers. And yeah, they were put on the cover of Rolling Stone, and it depicts them as a misunderstood anti-hero rather than a terrorist, you know? And then lately, what we've seen this week is this assassin of the healthcare CEO. And what you see is the shifting of the narrative from, hey, there was this awful thing that happened, to let's glamorize the guy that did it. There was a headline like the CEO's death sparks outrage over healthcare inequality. And in all these cases, the media doesn't just report, right? It elevates, it creates this mystique around these criminals, and often it just kind of overshadows the victims, right? So let's not talk about the victims. Let's put these killers and glamorize them. And this, so this comes to the spotlight paradox. Okay, I've coined that. So the spotlight paradox is this contradiction that arises when we shift the attention and essentially glorifying these killers, and it's in really inspiring others to follow suit, right? So how does the spotlight paradox work? Well, first, the media has made fame a reward for this vicious act. So there's a vicious act, and you get famous for it. So when we cover these, we're almost treating this guy like he's a celebrity, right? And you may say, "Oh, Tom, don't you have that on the thumbnail of your video?" Yeah, I think 10 people will see this video, so I'm not having any impact on that. Also, we're going to normalize this guy's behavior because it's just repeated over and over again. So this constant portrayal of the criminal by the media makes it less shocking and more acceptable to others. So the way that it's covered is just creating this loop where we're going to get more of it, right? And we've shifted the narrative. And one thing that you can look out for is when they shift the narrative from what happened to why it happened. Why did it happen? And that's where we can. That's what gets people really excited, especially if they're hunks, they're good-looking guys, right? Well, there's a lot of psychological warnings that we've heard for years and years and years not to do this. This is not good to do. Coverage should focus on the victims, not on the perpetrators. And do we see that? Do we see them concentrating on the victim here? No, we see all the coverage of the perpetrator. We put their name, their face, all over the place. It should be minimized when reporting on this. If you wanted to be responsible and make the world a better place, you should really minimize that. And what we see is the exact opposite happening. Sensationalism should just be avoided entirely. And go on social media now, go on, flip on cable news. There's sensationalism everywhere. They're running this story nonstop because it's getting them views and clicks and likes and all that kind of stuff. It really is a total double standard in media responsibility. These same corporations that have NFL games, they will never show somebody running out onto the field because they know that if they show that, more and more people will do that. Okay? So for something that's really, I mean, it's a sporting event, right? But for a sporting event, the media, these same corporations, let's say NBC News, right? NBC runs an NFL game. They will never show somebody running out onto the field, a fan streaking or doing some kind of political message because they know that it just encourages it. But this same corporation will promote and glamorize a killer like we see happening today. It's a total double standard. And you would think that a football game is a little bit less important than violent crime and murder. But things are backwards. And so if you wanted to break this cycle, you'd focus on the victims. You would limit the exposure of the perpetrator of the crime. You might, I don't know, adopt some ethical guidelines that media outlets should do to minimize the risk of copycat behavior. And they could also use this as an opportunity to educate the public about the dangers of sensationalizing coverage. Letting the public know, hey, if this is sensationalized, guess what? It contributes to more violence. But I'm not seeing those stories a whole lot. But anyway, so that's this idea. Killer Chic. That's what I've named it. You got a better name, let me know in the comments. And this spotlight effect. It's kind of perfect. What we see happening right now is just kind of a perfect example of everything that's wrong with the corporate news right now in one story. It's everything wrong. And in my opinion, you can't hate the corporate media enough by glamorizing this guy. I think it's a terrible thing. But what do I know? I got half a dozen people that'll watch this video as opposed to the people glamorizing this guy who are getting millions. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Stick around for the after show. I'll go through all of your comments, and that should take about 15 seconds. But I'm glad it looks like this worked. So perhaps I'll be streaming from this laptop from now on. Yeah, well, I'll have to check it once this is over. Anyway, I'll be back on Friday. Hope you all have a beautiful day. Until then, peace. Okay, well, I can't seem to get the chat on the screen. Okay. Well, it is what it is. Anyway, Natasha says it's working. With some nice green hearts. Thank you for letting me know. You can hear me good. Natasha says, I'm working on my roof, so not much commenting, but I'm outside and I can hear you. Well, that's great. I will play this back afterwards and just see how it worked. I was having a heck of a time this past week. This computer right here was crashing. The browser was crashing. Everything was crashing every time I tried to stream. So I've moved everything to the laptop, and it seems to be working. So that's good. Daily Wire won't be speaking his name or showing his face. Yeah, I didn't show his face. That was an ARE rendering of of a handsome, charismatic serial killer or assassin that's in the thumbnail. And yeah, I don't think the guy needs his name out there anymore. But I mean, obviously, one guy is not much. Or at least Ben Shapiro won't. Okay. Ox says it's working. Good. So looks like it's working both on YouTube and on Rumble. That's great. Yeah, Monday I did not have a show. I tried, and I just got all kinds of technical issues, and it crashed. Same thing with last Friday, but I guess I'll move to this laptop to stream from now on. It's a little bit harder, but we got to go with what works, right? Go with what works. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you have a beautiful week and think about this idea of Killer Chic. I think it's an interesting idea. Perhaps I'm the only one. I don't know. But I'll be back on Friday. Until then, peace.